Storm Shadow missiles could change the Ukrainian war. For Ukraine, it could be a pivotal advantage on the battlefield. But Putin has warned that by using these missiles, it would make the West directly involved with the conflict in Russia. Why are these missiles so special? And if Ukraine already have the missiles, why can't they use them on Russia? Right now, they're all the talk. Apart from Storm Shadows sounding like a reject from a Marvel film, they're fast, they're expensive, and they're dangerous. Britain and France have already given the Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine, but on the basis that they don't use them on Russian soil. They are for defensive purposes only, Britain and France have argued so far. And that partly makes sense. They can say that they're not involved in the war directly, but still enable Ukraine to defend themselves. They say that if Russian soldiers cross the line and come onto Ukraine, fair enough, fire away. But if you're firing onto Russian soil with these rockets and we've given them to you, maybe we're implicated. There have been some loopholes. For example, Britain did say that Crimea is Ukrainian, and legally speaking, it is. So Ukraine have been able to hit Crimea with Storm Shadow rockets, and it's had a pretty big effect. Military centres in Crimea have been hit, and life has been made very hard for Russian soldiers. But Ukraine is now saying this is not enough. Ukraine says, well, Russia can fire missiles from behind Russian lines, essentially hiding behind their own borders. Why can't we do the same? Ukraine has said that it is like fighting with one arm tied behind its back. The missiles are, as I mentioned, very fast. They are launched from aircraft that then flies down almost at the speed of sound before hitting its target and detonating. Storm Shadows can travel at 155 miles, which puts some Russian bases within reach if Ukraine is able to fire them from the edge of their own borders. The Institute for the Study of War have identified roughly 200 Russian bases that would be in range of Storm Shadows fired from Ukraine behind Ukrainian borders. This map shows what Ukraine could hit, and much to Putin's solace, Moscow is not in reach. Needless to say, this would give Ukraine an advantage on the battlefield. But how much? It's hard to say. Russia will have known that Ukraine have these missiles for a long time, and they will have been preparing. One of those ways of preparation would be to move their ammo and their air assets back further deeper into Russia to avoid that radius. The US therefore argues that by allowing Ukraine to use the rockets on Russian soil, it would have limited scope anyway. Or are they just compensating for the fact that they won't let Ukraine use them? Well, there is still fear in the US government that by pushing Russia too hard, it would escalate the conflict, dragging NATO and America into a war that it does not need. Vladimir Putin, Russia's leader, believes that use of Storm Shadow missiles on Russia would need the direct intervention of Western officials. He told reporters in Russia that only servicemen of NATO countries can input flight missions into these missile systems, adding that Ukraine also relies on satellite intelligence supplied by the West to choose their targets. True or false, it is hard to say. Unless you're buying the product yourself and reading through the brochure, you're not going to know whether Western officials are needed in the little print at the bottom of the manual, and I haven't got a few spare $1 billion to spare to find out. A decision from the West is imminent. Can Ukraine use these? Can they not? We will be finding out very shortly, and by the time you're watching this video, you may already know. But by then, Russia will have had time to prepare, and they will have moved their important things back further behind the lines. Therefore, Ukraine is unlikely to be raining down rockets on Moscow anytime soon. Russia may claim that by letting Ukraine use the rockets, NATO has declared war on Russia. But this would not be the first time. This could just be yet another red line that doesn't manifest beyond anything more than a bluff. From this perspective and the time of uploading, the information to me suggests that by giving Ukraine the power to use the rockets on Russian soil, it will change the war. But enough to stop it? I don't think so.